All right. So this is not going to be Patreon exclusive. I'm gonna put this everywhere. Um, I was really, really excited for this season. Let me say that right off the bat. I love college football. Like I eat, sleep, and breathe college football. Like I'm checking, recruiting, the portal, all that stuff. Like I am a diehard college football fan. When we're talking about over here, University of Oklahoma, University of Missouri, University of Southern California. I make sure I check all those teams first, and then I'll pay attention to what everybody else in the nation is doing. I was really excited for this season because I was excited for the 12-team college football playoff. I remember 10 years ago when we finally got a playoff where we had the two semifinal games rotating amongst the New Year's Six bowls, right? Rose Bowl, Orange Bowl, Peach Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, right? Um, so with 12, it's like, okay, so it's going to get very interesting. Now, all the six bowls are now part of the college football playoff. So to win a national championship, you might have to win a game in the Rose Bowl. You might have to win the Fiesta Bowl and then play for the Natty or something like that. You're gonna have to win two prestigious bowls to win a national championship, and I think that's absolutely incredible. I think that's really cool. I think about a team going back to their campus and their trophy. There's a team, whoever was the national championship this year, their trophy case is going to include the college football national championship trophy, as well as maybe the Orange Bowl trophy or the Rose Bowl trophy or the Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl, whatever have you, right? I thought that was really cool. What ESPN, Paul Feinbaum, and Kirk Herbstreit have done, and the shit that they've talked about since Friday night when Indiana played Notre Dame, is absolutely deplorable and it's disgusting. They're shitting on those kids because they played a better level of talent. Saying they didn't deserve to be in because everybody wants to rally around Alabama Crimson Tide football is absurd, okay? Here are the points. I'm going to give you these points. Well, Indiana won 11-1, but they didn't play anybody. Indiana plays in a Power 5 conference. Power 4 conference, I guess. Is it Power 5 conference? No, it's Power 4. I'm sorry. SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC, Power 4. I apologize. The Pac 12 doesn't exist anymore. Um, when the schedule was made, if you looked at that, you'd be like, Indiana has a tough sled ahead of them, right? Who played in the national championship game to start off this year? The University of Michigan and Washington University. And Michigan won. And then Washington at the time was still a member of the Pac 12, which no longer exists. And then Washington became a member of the Big 10. So, based on that, if you look at Indiana's schedule at the top of the season, that looks like a tough road for them. So we're going to recap Indiana's schedule really quickly. FIU, who cares? That's a tune-up game. Everybody plays one. Western Illinois, that's kind of a tune-up game as well. UCLA, I know the Bruins are trash. They are still from a Power 4 conference, right? It is a conference ball game. And they had to go on the road. Indiana won 42-13, okay? University of Charlotte, 52-14 win. Kind of a tune-up game as well. Then we start to get into Big Ten play. They trounced Maryland 42-28 at home. They went to Evanston, trounced Northwestern 41-24. Now I know Northwestern Northwestern is not a football school. Let's be real, right? Maryland's kind of a basketball school as well. But again, that's still a conference game, okay? After that, Nebraska, and this team, everybody thought this Nebraska team was going to be really, really good. Not the case. Indiana beat the shit out of them 56-7. Okay. Then we get to the Washington game. I know Washington had a down year. When the schedule was made, Washington was one of the top teams in the nation. It's not Indiana's fault that they weren't. Okay. Obliterated Washington 31-17. Michigan State, has been down for quite some time, still a conference opponent, on the road in East Lansing, 47-10. They go to the Big House. I'm sorry, no, they were at home against Michigan, the defending national champions. And I know Michigan has been down this year. Jim Harbaugh went to the NFL. J.J. McCarthy went to the NFL. They lost some players from the defense. Donovan Edwards was hurt. Michigan dealt with a lot of injuries. Indiana beat them 2015. The same Michigan team that then on Thanksgiving weekend beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. Keep that in mind. Okay? Common opponent. They went to Columbus and played Ohio State 38-15. Well, they got bombed by Ohio State. They were supposed to. Let's be fucking real. All right. And then they finish up their season Thanksgiving weekend with a 66-0 trouncing of Purdue at home. So they took care of business. They lost one game all year to what some people are saying is the most impressive team in the nation. I mean, the Ohio State roster cost $20 million. So what's the problem with Indiana, right? Okay, fine. So then let's look at SMU's schedule. All right, Nevada. Okay. Not really a big name. HCU, not a big name. BYU, who was on a tear to start the year. They lost 15-18 to BYU. Lost by a field goal. Okay? Keep in mind, that BYU team was in the hunt for the Big 12 championship all season. They fell off at the end. They go to TCU, a team that was in a national championship game 2 years ago, and a team that everybody thought was better than Colorado at the beginning of last season. And then we all remember Coach Prime saying, "Do you believe now?" Okay? 66-42 win over TCU. Florida State, a team that was left out of the college football playoff last year, even though they went undefeated. Why? Because you guys wanted your precious Alabama Crimson Tide in. Okay. Well, what happened? They beat Florida State 42-16. Okay, well, Florida State is down this year. That's not SMU's fault. They played the team that was in front of them. Okay, Louisville, 34-27 win over a pretty good Louisville team who was ranked 22nd in the nation. Who did SMU play? They didn't play anybody. Louisville's ranked. What are we talking about? Like, do y'all even pay attention? 40-10 win over Stanford. 28-27 win over a good Duke team. That Duke team is really, they're not really, really good, but that is a good football team, okay? 48-25 win over number 18 Pittsburgh. Wow, look at that. Another ranked win. Well, they didn't play anybody. They had two ranked wins. What are we fucking talking about here? 38-28 win over Boston College. 33-7 win over Virginia. Remember, these are also conference games. 38-6 win over Cal. They lose the ACC championship game to Clemson by a field goal as time expired, but they didn't play anybody. Okay, fine. So let's take a look at Alabama's schedule. Now, we know Coach Saban walked away. They brought in Kalen DeBoer from Washington, which could be a reason that Washington was down this year. Okay, so Alabama goes 9-3. 63-0 win at home against Western Kentucky. 42-16 win at home against USF. Win on the road to Camp Randall. Okay, they beat Wisconsin 42-10. Oh, Alabama scheduled Wisconsin. Wisconsin hasn't been good in a few years. Wisconsin also wasn't ranked. But you're going to give Alabama credit for this. Well, they scheduled a Big Ten opponent. They went into Camp Randall against a bad Wisconsin football team. Are you guys keeping up here? Okay. 41-34 win over Georgia. They were beating the shit out of Georgia in the first half of that game. I was like, this is not even watchable, so I went for a run. I come back from my run. Before I get in the shower, I turn on the game. I was like, holy shit, Georgia came back. So I take a quick shower, and then I jump back out, and Alabama closes the door. Fine, they beat Georgia. And this is, Kirby Smart's got a really good fucking football program down there in Athens. So you give them credit for beating Georgia. Okay. 35-40 lost to Vanderbilt. Wow. They didn't drop that far in the rankings. Mizzou beat Vanderbilt. We didn't play a good game, but we still won. What happened? We won the game and dropped in the rankings. Just about as far as Alabama did when they lost to them. Why? Because there's a bias for Alabama. When Mizzou lost to Texas A&M was ranked. We played the only ranked game of the weekend when we played Boston College, and they were ranked. Nobody else had a ranked game on the schedule that week except for the Missouri Tigers. I want you to remember that. Okay. So they lose 40-35 to Vanderbilt. And Saban was up there talking crap. Well, Vanderbilt was the only bad team in the SEC, and then they beat your precious Alabama Crimson Tide. But keep up with me here. Alabama barely escaped South Carolina 27-25 win. Alabama then proceeds to lose the next weekend in Knoxville to Tennessee 24-17. The same Tennessee team that got their asses beat Saturday night by Ohio State. And that game was worse than the Indiana-Notre Dame game or the Penn State-SMU game. You following me? Okay, keep up. Alabama beat Mizzou 34-0. I'm not going to lie, they boat raced us. Why Drew Pine threw 3 fucking picks? I don't know if he was seeing ghosts or what he was doing, but he threw that ball in some really bad spots. Okay. Alabama then goes the next week and beats LSU 42-13 in Baton Rouge in Death Valley on a Saturday night nationally televised game. What does Alabama do the next week? They play at home against fucking Mercer. The SEC talks about the dominance and this, that, and the third, and they all play fucking cupcake teams in November. While everybody else is playing conference ball games, there are teams in the SEC that are playing teams like Mercer. It's a Division II school. A good Division II school. And then what does Alabama do? The week before Thanksgiving, they go on the road to Norman, Oklahoma to play my Sooners. And they lose 24-3. They couldn't even score a touchdown. The last time Alabama Crimson Tide football could not score a touchdown in a football game was before Nick Saban was the head coach. And Saban was there for 17 years, so what does that tell you? Then they have their annual Iron Bowl matchup with Auburn, 28-14. Beat Auburn by 2 scores. Probably should have done, it could have been a lot worse, but Jalen Milroe hasn't looked all that great. So what does Alabama get for this? Well, they had a spot in the ReliaQuest Bowl against the Michigan Wolverines on New Year's Eve, by the way. It's not a great bowl, but you're still playing on New Year's Eve. Alabama finished 9-3. Indiana finished 11-1. SMU, what did SMU finish? 11-2 to end the season, because they also lost in the ACC championship game. Here's the problem I have with Paul Feinbaum, ESPN, and Kirk Herbstreit. Ohio State destroyed Tennessee Saturday night. Tennessee lost worse than Indiana and SMU, and Tennessee is an SEC team. An SEC team that beat Alabama, by the way. Are you guys following me? Keep up here. Kirk Herbstreit is a graduate of the Ohio State University. He was also the quarterback at the Ohio State University. Instead of bigging up his alma mater, which is okay, you have to stay neutral. They're not going to let you call that game if you're going to be a homer for your team. Instead of praising your team, you guys want to give a pass to Tennessee. Paul Feinbaum, well, Tennessee, they get a pass. Why? Because they got their boots smoked? Because you're an SEC homer? I'm sorry, that's not how it works. That just is not how it works. So here's the long and short of this. Because I've seen a lot of this, and I want to make another point. When it came down to the Heisman, when we got to championship weekend and Cam Scatterbo was the new hot guy, like everybody's all super Scatterbo, and no, Travis Hunter shouldn't win the Heisman. Who was better this year? Please tell me. Because when Boise won the Mountain West Conference, and then Arizona State ended up winning the Big 12, everybody's like, well, Arizona State's got to jump Boise State. Well, why? Boise has 1 loss. Yeah, well, so Boise lost to Oregon, who was the only team to finish undefeated in college football bowl subdivision this year. They lost by 3 to Oregon. Well, they don't play anybody because they're in the Mountain West. Okay. So you're advocating for Arizona State to jump over Boise State because of the conference they play in, because they're in a G5 conference. All right, whatever. The very next day, actually, when the Heisman Trophy finalists came out that Monday, and it came down to Hunter, Gabriel, Genty, and Cam Ward. Well, it's Ashton Genty, clearly. He's the winner. Well, why not Travis Hunter? Well, look at what Genty did this season. Oh, you guys just said 2 days ago that Arizona State should jump Boise State because Boise State plays in a weak conference. Now, Travis, who plays in a Power 4 conference, had a phenomenal year, but you're now saying that Ashton Genty should be the Heisman Trophy winner, but you said that he played in a weak conference. So we know what the Travis Hunter hate is about. That's because people hate Coach Prime. So let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. Travis Hunter was head and shoulders above everyone else in college football this year. He deserved it. Okay? I don't want to hear that stuff because it wasn't a weak conference when it came down to the Heisman, but when it came down to seeding in the college football playoff, it was a weak conference. Anyway, different conversation for a different day. Back to this situation. It is not Indiana's fault that Michigan and Washington, who just played in the national title to start the year off, fell off the table this season. Indiana did what they were supposed to do. They played the teams in front of them. It is not Indiana or SMU's fault that Alabama lost to Vanderbilt and lost to a very bad Oklahoma team. And I'm still Sooner born, Sooner bred. When I die, I'll be Sooner dead. It is not Indiana nor SMU's fault that Tennessee they did this Tennessee takeover where more than half of the horseshoe Buckeyes, Columbus, do you know how many fucking Vol fans there were in Columbus Saturday night? They outnumber the Ohio State fans at home. It's a Rocky Top takeover. We're going to win this game. And then they proceed to get boat raced. By the way, at the half, Indiana and Notre Dame were tied at 7 apiece. Ohio State was up 21-0 at the end of the first quarter on Tennessee. Oh, but Tennessee gets a pass because they're from the SEC and their quarterback was hurt. They justified leaving an undefeated Florida State team out of the playoff last year because their quarterback got hurt. Well, damn. Stetson Bennett got hurt in the SEC championship game, but they didn't leave Georgia out of the playoff. So it seems like Feinbaum and Herbstreit and all these guys want an SEC invitational. They don't want a true college football playoff. They just want the SEC teams to play. Or just give the SEC team automatic bids and everybody else has to play for their spots. Will they play a tougher conference? Missouri lost a lot of players to the NFL draft last year, namely on their defense. They beat the shit out of Mississippi State. Mississippi State plays in the SEC. Mississippi State isn't going to beat anybody from the ACC or the Big Ten. Maybe Northwestern. Syracuse beat Clemson. What are we fucking talking about here? So what I figured and what I found out over the past 3 days, like Lane Kiffin tweeting, oh, this is really riveting. But he shut his mouth. Lane Kiffin didn't tweet when Ohio State started putting boots to fucking Tennessee on Saturday night. Lane, we haven't heard from Lane Kiffin since then. Lane, here's a bit of advice for you. Maybe you don't lose to the Kentucky fucking Wildcats. No disrespect to Kentucky, that's a basketball school. That is not a football school. Maybe you don't lose to fucking Kentucky. Maybe you don't lose to a bad Florida team without DJ Lagway. I don't remember if Lagway played in that game or not. You beat Georgia. Then you got to talking about, well, maybe it's not a good thing to play in your conference championship game because it's not exactly fair. It almost makes a lot of people feel like Lane intentionally lost a game to avoid playing in the SEC title game so he wouldn't lose positioning, and that backfired on him. Lane Kiffin, you have always been your biggest problem. Outside of the time where you coached for the Raiders and you had to coach for an owner like the late Al Davis, okay? Every other time, your fault. When you went to Tennessee and then left the minute the USC job became open and they burned mattresses because you turned your back on them after you said, we're going to sing Rocky Top all night after we beat Florida, that was your fault. When you became Saban's stooge as the offensive coordinator at Alabama, and Saban was screaming at you on the sidelines, belittling you, that was his fault as well, but that was also your fault. Every time something bad happens to Lane Kiffin, 9 out of 10 times, it's Lane Kiffin's fucking fault that it happened. You beat Georgia. You had one of the most impressive wins in the nation, and somehow Georgia made the college football playoff. Alabama beat Georgia. Had one of the best wins in the nation, and then Alabama had 2 of the worst losses in the nation. Oklahoma would not have been bowl eligible had they not beat Alabama. I want you guys to really think about that. You know how many games you need to win to be bowl eligible in college football in the bowl subdivision? 6. Essentially, you have to win half of the games on your schedule to be bowl eligible. So I'm tired of hearing about this. They're not the best 12 teams. Last time I checked in sports, 11-1 is better than 9-3. Oh, well, Alabama plays in the SEC. Well, Alabama shouldn't have fucking lost to Oklahoma and fucking Vanderbilt. I'm sorry. And I'm tired of hearing this about how great South Carolina was. They were the hottest team of late. Y'all couldn't stop Mizzou on 4th and 1. Which could have ran Marcus Carroll straight up the gut, and Brady went down the sideline to Luther and he turned in a 20-plus yard touchdown. Unfortunately, our defense could not tackle once we gave him the ball back after that. All right, because if our defense makes a stand, I don't want to hear shit. And also, I still don't want to hear shit about South Carolina because, correct me if I'm wrong, South Carolina lost head-to-head to Alabama and Ole Miss. Just because you all ended up with the same record, there are things called tiebreakers in sports. And the tiebreaker is usually head-to-head. You lost to the two teams ahead of you. I'm just disgusted. Do I think some things need to change in the college football playoff? Absolutely. Oregon should not be the only undefeated team in the nation and have arguably the toughest road to the national championship game. It should be reseeded after the first round. Is it cool that we're getting a traditional Rose Bowl matchup in Oregon and Ohio State? Absolutely. But Oregon beat Ohio State earlier this year. They should not be playing Ohio State right now. At best, they should face them in the national championship game. The bracket has to be reseeded after the first round. I don't know if you should get rid of the automatic buys or how that goes or what. They've got to tweak it a little bit, but I don't want to hear any more about Indiana and SMU didn't belong there because truthfully, neither did Alabama nor South Carolina. I'm sorry. Georgia nearly lost to Georgia Tech. Had they not beaten Texas in the SEC championship game, I don't know if you can make a case for Georgia. I just think a lot of people are bitching and moaning and crying like a bunch of little assholes, and it's disgusting. And I used to really value Herbie's opinion, and I used to value Paul Feinbaum's opinion, but I just think that they're both looking like fucking ingrates right now. And it pains me that ESPN used to be the pinnacle of sports programming, and now I find myself having to listen to fucking Tom Fernelli and Danny Cannell of all fucking people on the Cover 3 podcast. But shout out to Bud Elliott and Chip Patterson. That's all I got for you guys. I wasn't even supposed to be recording. Outside of the week in gaming, I was on a break until after the new year. And I had to turn on the fucking microphone to talk about this. This is disgusting. This is absolutely disgusting. I know that ESPN is in bed with the SEC, and they're also in bed with the ACC, but you don't hear them. You don't see them putting anybody on TV that calls ACC football games. No. They won't let anybody from the ACC network get on there and advocate for their team, right? Because SMU used to be a power in college football until they got the death penalty. And then they ended up regulated to a G5 conference. And then they told them, hey, you guys want a seat at the table, you better get yourself in a big conference. And then the SMU boosters went out and spent the money to get them into a Power 4 conference, to get them into into the ACC. And now it's well, they didn't play anybody. Go back and look at their schedule. Yeah, I'm not talking about Nevada. TCU's from a power conference. Florida State is Florida State, even though they had a terrible year. Louisville from a power conference. That Duke team is actually really good. Pittsburgh was ranked. Like, come on, what are we talking about here? They barely lost to Clemson in the ACC title game. Going into Beaver Stadium to a whiteout is tough. Penn State fans are super passionate about Nittany Lion football. Let Penn State have lost that game. They'd have talked about James Franklin can't win the big one. They would not have praised SMU if they had beat Penn State. The conversation would have been about how James Franklin cannot win the big game. Point blank, period. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays, you guys. Peace out.